I often tell people, and everybody gets to make up their own decisions, whether they want to be a mother, how they want to be a mother. But it is the best thing I've ever done in my life. And it is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. So it's all the things. It's so wonderful. It really does bring you so much joy. And I mean, really being your mom, I'm going to cry. Being your mom has been just one of the great joys of my life. Probably the most important thing in my life is being your mother. I've been able to have a lot
I
of
agree.
fun experiences and career success and all the things. And none of it's more important than you. So
I appreciate that. I love you too. I'm up.
hey honey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I have had a very eventful week
Okay.
and we haven't talked. So
We
I
have
have a
not.
lot to talk to you about.
We have not. Let's go. I'm ready.
Okay, so I started my week. Let me see, where was I? Friday.
Yep.
I flew to College Station,
Yep.
Texas, which is where Texas A&M is, and I had a wonderful, wonderful experience there. The head women's basketball coach, Joni Taylor, has this group of women called Beyond Basketball. So I got to speak to them, and it was just like a huge turnout, really special, wonderful women, all wonderful things. And Joni Taylor is awesome. Like I would not get on a plane for very many people, but I did for her because I just think she's classy, amazing, good at her job, all the things. I love her. So anyway, great experience.
Hmm.
Drive back to Houston that next day, and I get stranded in the Houston airport because of flooding and weather. I end up having to jump in my car and drive almost 7 hours from Houston to Oklahoma for my softball game.
Yes, you called me. I was
I called
busy.
you.
Yes.
So, what was my message I left for you?
I did. I read it. It was. I knew you were driving.
So, my message to you was, and my call to you was, hi, I'm driving and I'm tired. If you can get a chance, call me back to help me stay awake so I don't die.
Okay. I mean,
Let's just, before you start,
I was. I was.
have you
I was
called me
busy.
back since I left you that message on Friday?
No, I have texted you and seen your social media posts.
So you knew I didn't die.
I was very aware that you didn't die.
Okay.
I was very aware that you didn't die. But yeah, that's bad son moment.
That's a bad son moment. But just, just in the future, when your mom calls you and is like, I'm tired and I need someone to talk to me so I don't drive off the road, let's have that just be a okay, I gotta call her back moment.
Yes, I did not look at I did not listen to the voicemail or look at that until the next day.
Obviously. So anyway, I worked out great. I got there, ended up going to Norman for Oklahoma State, Oklahoma softball, which was amazing, by the way. So fun to be back into softball season. But then something else happened where I dropped my work bag on my foot and somebody has a broken foot.
Oh my goodness.
So
You
mom
know,
is
okay,
limping around
you
the
can call
country.
me more than once. I just want to I had to defend
I've been
myself
hectic.
before I get
I know.
hated on. You called me one time on Friday. I missed that call. I didn't get around to looking at
I know.
the voicemail until the next day, and I was like, "Oh my God." And then I immediately I was gonna call you, and then I was on Instagram, and you had posted a bunch of Instagrams, and like I was like, "Okay, well she's fine." And I was busy. I got into a short film festival, so I like had to write. No, so it's like a contest, so you have to write, act, direct, do all that stuff within a week. So it was like I was like, oh god. So I was scrambling to get like figure out how I was gonna shoot it, who was gonna be in it. I have to write it today after this. So it was a little hectic for me as well, not as hectic. But you could have called me again.
I know. I've been hectic. I've been so busy. So I had to go to Indy for a film premiere for Full Court Press, which is the Caitlin Clark, Camila Cardoso, Kiki Rice documentary. The first episode airs on Sunday on ABC, and it is awesome. So I went to the film premiere. We did a Q&A with all of the women and the director, Kristen Lapis, who's just kick-ass, amazing, amazing. But in between doing all of that, I called my friends at the Indiana Fever and said, "Hey, I can't walk. I'm trying to walk through the airport and I can't walk." So they got me into the Indiana Fever team doctor. So shout out to the Indiana Fever and my friends around the world for the WNBA. They took care of me. So anyway, mom's got a broken foot and it really, really is awful.
Are you
It hurts.
okay?
I'm okay. It's going to heal on its own. I don't have to have surgery, but it's painful. And I was like trying to get through the airport today. And can we just talk about how people in the airport treat people in wheelchairs? So I got a wheelchair from the gate to the rental car place because it's like 2 miles to walk from your gate to the rental car place in the Atlanta airport.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'm just going to say this, America, we have to do better to people in wheelchairs because people cut you off. They whack you in the face with their backpacks or their bag. Like no one, and I mean no one, is paying attention to people in wheelchairs and giving them any grace or any courtesy. So let's try to do better on that.
I see. One thing I'm hung up on is that you didn't call me again at any point.
Well, I knew I was going to talk to you today, so I figured I
Okay.
could catch you up on everything.
Okay, good. I'm glad that we both at least had that same thought where we were like, okay, well, we'll talk on the podcast.
So it's been a hectic, chaotic week, but I'm back in Atlanta for in Auburn, Alabama for the SEC softball tournament. So it's just really fun. I'm with all my softball ladies, and we had a really good time in Norman, Oklahoma. So I'm with Michelle Smith, Jessica Mendoza, Beth Mullins. We've all worked together. They told me this fact that I did not know is that we are the longest tenured broadcast team for 18 straight years.
I saw that. It's insane.
Yeah, for network television, I think. Because I think there's some local broadcasters who've done it longer. But anyway, so I'm back with the ladies, and obviously they know you very well since they've helped raise you.
They're the best. They're basically what did we call them? They were like my summer moms. That was with them on my 21st birthday. I like grew up with them. I remember, I don't know how appropriate this story is, but being in Bora Bora with Beth Mowens and being like, we were sipping whiskeys, and I was just like, you're basically like you're like my camp mom. I love you so much. They're the summer moms. Same with Michelle. Love Michelle and
Yes, so
Jessica.
it's wonderful because they've all like we've worked together so long. So Jessica wasn't even married when we first started working. Now
Yeah.
she's got two kids, they're teenagers. Um, Michelle got married. I actually got to officiate Beth Mullins and her husband Alan's wedding. So
Yeah.
just it's a happy place to be when you're working with people that you love, doing a sport that you love. So SEC softball tournament coming up this weekend.
It'd be awesome.
So check us out on ESPN. Shameless plug for myself on the podcast. Now, what about you? I've been talking way too much. How's your
No,
week gone?
week's great. It has a pretty low key weekend. The lady is sick, so was taking care of her yesterday and the day before that.
Why do you always have to call her something so weird, the lady?
I think it's more fun. Like it just sounds dumb. My girlfriend. Like I don't like the way it sounds like.
And you think the lady is sick sounds better?
Yeah, the lady has some regalness to it, you know?
My
Like
lady is
the
under the
lady's
weather.
sick. Yeah, it just sounds cooler. Like, because girlfriend
Can you
just
call her my lady? I
my
think that
lady.
sounds
I
better.
like that.
My
My I
lady.
you'll hate my nickname that I call. Well, maybe I should share her nickname. Well, it's too late now. I call her my sassy little sausage. Uh,
My
yeah,
sassy little I don't think women would love to be called sausage.
it's
Has
not a
she
great
approved this
nickname.
nickname?
That's why I probably should have said it. But you know what? Keep it in. Leave that in. Leave that in.
I think our viewers or our listeners should vote that sassy little sausage is not the best nickname.
It's
Sassy little
not.
something. I had a boyfriend once that called me pint-sized groover because I am also a short woman and I loved dancing. And so he would call me his pint-sized groover. He was from London. So, points,
Oh,
having a point,
I
a
remember him.
port. You remember, Jake. So
Yeah.
points are very good across the pond. So I was his point-sized groover. That's a bad British accent. I don't even know what I was doing there.
Not good. But it does make me think of I don't know if we can talk about it, but the people that you've dated, you've had a very wonderful dating career in terms of people that I've been exposed to being like very, very from like storied places, like like Jake from London. Like how many kids got to grow up knowing a guy that was from London that was a very like intelligent person like that. I remember him very well. And like that's a pretty cool experience to like know somebody from London when you're like 10 in in Utah.
Yeah. Try to
It's
expose
that's
you to the world a little bit.
a little bit. I mean, we were already going to Tahiti when I was like 8, so I guess that counts.
Yeah, I think you went to Tahiti when you were 3 for the first time.
3.
3 years old.
Okay, so I was talking
Do you
about this
remember
with a
that at
friend.
all?
I kind of do. It like blips like pictures of it, but we were talking about like traveling with kids, and I had 3 thoughts on it. My first big one was I think it's kind of messed up that we get so mad at parents when their kids are having a tough time flying. It bothers me. Like when people are like when you see it there, like a lady comes on holding a baby, and you just see someone. Ah, I'm like, leave them alone. She has to travel with the baby. You're
Right.
just
It's
here.
hard.
You're just sitting
I
there.
I try to be super, super patient with that because I was once a young mother and traveling with you a lot. And so I
Yeah,
always try to be very, very patient. I think the only time I'm not patient when I see parents traveling with children is when the parents are not doing a good job. And
yeah.
when I
When
say
it's
doing a good job, I mean like reading stuff about how can you fly with children. There's a thing where kids always have issues with the pressure when you take off and land, and so they need to be sucking on a bottle or chewing gum for younger kids, or just moving something so your inner ear will pop and you won't be in pain. There's like all these little small tricks to flying and traveling with children, and so I guess the only time I get frustrated is when you can tell the parents have not read anything ever
yeah,
about how to travel with children. Like,
yeah,
just be informed about how you can help your children. So because really it's more, you just don't want to hear the kids scream and be in pain when their ears aren't popping, right? That's very hard to hear the kids be in pain. So that's more
yeah.
where
And then there's people that are sitting there like, oh, I can't believe, and it's like you're shut up. You know what you're doing. That little baby has no idea what's going on and is freaking out. And the parent, this is probably especially if it's like their first baby, you don't know. They are also like, oh my God, I like, what do I do? How do I make you feel better? Like they're freaking out. Leave them alone. You
mm-hmm.
are just watch your Nancy Myers and just put the blinders on. I don't know,
Who's
Nancy.
Nancy Myers? I don't even know who that is.
She's a direct. She did like It's Complicated.
Oh, right.
She's a director, but she makes those like I feel like they're plain rom-coms. I feel like they're the perfect plain movies, like The Intern.
Perfect 90-minute, 80
Yeah,
minute, cute, get you through a flight, make you happy.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, you traveled a lot as a kid. I think you were 6 or 8 weeks old the first time I took you on a plane. And I was one of those parents. Listen, I have done every possible wrong thing as a parent, but I thought that if I wanted you to acclimate well to traveling, you needed to travel early and get used to traveling. So you have traveled a lot in your life from, I think, 6 or 8 weeks old was your first trip.
Mm.
And I never forget, I took you to one of my first games was at BYU at Air Force college football game. And I had you in a stroller. And I think back on this now and I just think, oh my gosh, I was crazy. But I was a young mother doing whatever I could to work and have a job and raise you. And I just remember rolling my stroller out to Air Force football practice. And their coach, Fisher DeBerry, who was a wonderful, wonderful man. I loved him so much. He's a wonderful man. He was like, "Oh, what do we have here?" Like, some coaches could have been like, what the heck are you doing, lady, bringing your baby to practice? But
Yeah.
he was so kind and lovely and just like, "Hey, who do we have here?" And you were, I mean, maybe 2 months old.
Well, we were talking at dinner a couple weeks ago about the what game was that we were trying to find the footage of me on the. So there was this game. Can you remind me what game it was
Oh
where
no,
they stormed the field?
are we going to tell this? Okay, so now you're telling the embarrassing
Because
story about me.
yeah,
You
well,
don't want me telling embarrassing stories about you, but
you
okay,
already have been,
okay, here we go.
and you're not
So
going to stop.
you
I know.
were we really need to look up, I need to look up the dates on this. I'm pretty sure it was 2002. We'll have to look
I
up the
think,
dates on this.
yeah.
But I had done like, I don't know, 7 Iowa football games that year. It was just one of those magical years where a team starts doing really well. And so you keep getting assigned to them week after week. And so I was with Mark Jones and Bob Davie was our crew. We were a phenomenal crew. I will put us up there against a lot of people I've worked with because we had great chemistry and Jonesy's the best. And Bob Davie, we had a fun time. And that year, Iowa won. They just had to win a game at Minnesota to win the Big Ten championship. And Brad Banks was their quarterback. Fred Russell was the running back. They had a really good defense that year, really good offensive line. And they won the game at Minnesota. And I had brought you to work. This is back in the days before ESPN was owned by Disney and we had all these rules and regulations. Like ESPN was kind of like the wild,
Yeah,
wild
do whatever
west.
you want.
We
Yeah.
did not have an HR department back in these times. So
Yeah.
I brought you to work with me. And I mean, you weren't older than 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old. I'll have to Google this, but anyway, so I'm working the game. It looks like I was going to win. And you are over on this little gator cart on the sidelines. Do you remember what you were doing?
I was playing with my Scorpion King action figures, and they were having it was Michael Clark Duncan, RIP, and The Rock. I had action figures of those two guys from Scorpion King, the properly rated movie from 2003. And they were having a very intense battle on that gator.
So yeah, you're sitting on the back of kind of one of those gator golf carts that's got like a flat plywood back, and you're sitting up there playing throughout the course of the football game. I like, even now I'm like, how did I think that was okay? But so the game ends and all of the Iowa fans, because it's a pretty close drive from Iowa to Minnesota and it's a huge rivalry game, they rush the field. And I don't know that I was expecting that because, it's the away team rushing the field and all the Iowa fans. And so I run out into the middle of the field storming and I get an interview with Brad Banks, the quarterback. And, we finish the interview and it's chaos and they're tearing down the goalposts and they try to get the goalposts out. It's a famous sports shop because they're trying to get the goalposts out of the Metrodome that has these revolving doors and you can't get the goalposts out. And all of a sudden my camera guy says, oh, hey, I checked on your son. He's okay. He's still on the gator. He's safe. And I was like,
oh yeah,
I forgot about him completely. Didn't think about you once during the field storming. It's what maybe one of my top 5 bad moments as a mother because I just went and did my job and I did not think about and I guess maybe in my defense, I will say maybe because I knew you were on the golf cart and over on the sideline, it didn't occur to me that you would be in danger, but I also didn't check to see if you were trampled.
And that's the more indicting part of it. But I mean, things turned out well. I'd like to point out that I did not tell an embarrassing story. You told. So
What do you remember about that?
I literally just remember playing with my action figures and it got really loud for a little bit. And I was like, what is going on? And I remember people being everywhere and there just being like a ton of people being like, God, there's like so many people around. And then I was like, the game must be over. Somebody will come get me. And I went back to what I was doing.
Okay, our crack producer, Robbie Triano, has given us the great info in the chat. Oh, Iowa, 45-21 win at Minnesota, November 16th, 2002. So how old would you have been? You would have been 6 years old.
7?
7.
7, yeah.
7 years old.
7 years old. Wow, that was, how many, that's what, 22 years ago now? Oh, wow. Oy, oy, oy.
But to this day, I still see those guys. I saw Brad Banks, the quarterback for Iowa, gosh, a few years ago. I'll have to share a picture with our producer Robbie to post.
Yeah,
he's doing great. I still see guys to this day. Robert Gallery, I think, was on that team. I saw him this year. He came to a bunch of Caitlin Clark games. He and his wife and daughters are super into Caitlin Clark. at Iowa. So to this day, I see a lot of people from that team, and Coach Kirk Ferentz and I are good friends. So um, I
That's crazy. It's crazy you remember all those names. That's pretty impressive.
I didn't remember to check on you, but I know who the left
But
tackle was.
you know the names of the left tackle.
Bad mother moment.
It's
So
not a bad mom moment. It's just a mom. I think the bar for bad moms is like, it's pretty, moms, it's tough to be a mom. Mom's tough.
Momming's tough. So this is going to be our Mother's Day episode. So
Yes, it
I
is.
do think I have one other really, really bad story. Do you remember my other really bad mom moment? And then we'll tell some happy ones, hopefully.
Well, I was gonna say your mother's gift is being delivered to your house, so I feel like
What
I
house?
nailed
I
that.
won't be home.
Oh, well, it's outside of your home,
Okay,
so that's good.
there we go.
Yeah, we did
Um,
that. What one are
you
you
have a
thinking
very
of?
funny, famous other story about a mom fail that I did. It involves the car.
Ooh, I got this one. All right, so to preface, to this day, we love Indian food. We're a big Indian food family. Um, Shout out to Tamarind in
Our
Tribeca.
favorite restaurant in New York. If you have not been to Tamarind, they are not a sponsor. We're getting no money
We
for this
just like them.
recommendation. We go there every single time I'm in New York with you. We go to Tamarind because we love it.
Obsessed with it. Big
Yes.
Sag Paneer fan over here. I'm more of a chicken korma guy, but living in Bountiful, Utah, there's not a lot of options for Indian
Not much
food.
diverse food. Yes.
Probably more so now, but back in whenever this was, like 2006, there's not a lot of options for food. And we drove to the store. I was sitting in the front seat, so it must have been at least like 13 or something, or 12 or something. And as we're driving down Main Street, and you spot it just out of the side of your eye, you're like, Royal India, there's an Indian restaurant in Bountiful, and you lost it. You whipped your car into a spot that happened to be right out front, probably a handicapped spot, just to make it more fun. Ran out of the car to go order food, and I was just like, all right, I guess I'm just hanging out here. And so I'm sitting there listening to, you know, Radio Disney or whatever, some Kesha. And all of a sudden I noticed that the car is rolling backwards. And I looked down and
Into the street.
into the street, and you had left it in drive and just hopped out of the car. And I rolled into the street, but luckily hopped over the middle console and hit the brakes before I could roll fully into traffic.
Yeah.
That
Left you in
was
the car
yeah,
unattended
yeah,
while the car was moving.
yeah. It is. I think about this though. If they back in the day, I loved, like, if you were going shopping and I was tired or in a bad mood, I love to just like sit in the car and listen to the radio. I don't think that that's legal now.
No,
Like, I
you'll
don't think
get
you can even.
arrested. You'll
Yeah,
get arrested if you leave your children in the car. Now, I never, ever, ever left you like in the car when you were a toddler or you couldn't
no.
walk or you were in your car seat. We're talking more like you're 12 or
I
13 or,
I would
like
say
older
like
where you want to be in
even
control of
like
your own life.
8 or 9. I'd be like,
Yeah.
I don't want to walk around the store. I've already checked out all the toys. I'm going to the car.
I had a friend, a neighbor actually get arrested and get a citation and had to go to a lawyer because she left her two kids in the car and they were probably like 6 and 5 at the time, or 6 and 4. She was just going to run into the store really quick and she got in big trouble for that. So don't do it.
That's
Don't do it.
that's what I'm saying though. Momming's hard. I
Momming
think
is hard.
momming's tough.
Yeah, I think it's I often tell people, and everybody gets to make up their own decisions whether they want to be a mother, how they want to be a mother, but it is the best thing I've ever done in my life, and it is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. So it's all the things. It's so wonderful. It really does bring you so much joy. And I mean, really, being your mom, I'm gonna cry. Being your mom has been just one of the great joys of my life. Probably the most important thing in my life is being your mother. I've been able to have a lot
I
of
agree.
fun experiences and career success and all the things. And none of it's more important than you. So
Hey, thank you, mom. I appreciate that. I love you too.
love you. Do we have any good mom stories of things I did right?
Good mom stories. That's easier. I
Okay,
got to
this is
think of.
really going to make me mad if you have to think about it this long.
Well, no. It's more like narrowing down stories.
Mhm.
Because there's just like a million different kinds and different ones. A favorite is we went to. This is just popping to the front of my head, but we went to Derek Jeter's charity that he does in New
Turn to
York,
foundation dinner.
the Turn
Yes.
Two Foundation dinner. Great foundation dinner. And we get there, you walk the red carpet, everybody's kind of just, like they're taking your picture, and I'm just standing there holding your bag, just like, and you ask somebody to take a picture of us. And then we get to go. You were presenting. Oh no, were you hosting that year? I think you were
I
hosting
was
that
doing an
year.
interview. Yeah.
So we go and we're in the back, and I met like Joey Fatone, and we meet Derek and his wife, and we're like, oh my god, hi. I'm like, oh wow, Derek Jeter, oh, biracial angel, same. And then we do the event. You end up buying me a signed poster from Michael Jordan, my namesake, that I have hanging up on the wall over here. But then Boys to Men came out, and you like lost it. It was just like having so much fun, and there wasn't that many people that were really like having a great time. So we literally just like had almost like a private Boys to Men concert. I remember that being awesome.
Yeah. Motown Philly's back again. Hey,
And I didn't,
doing a little East Coast jam.
I can't
Yeah.
remember song lyrics to save my life, but I remember all those songs.
We had another good time at the
Appropriate.
Turn to Foundation dinner, and it was, oh my gosh, New Edition.
Oh
It was
yeah,
Bobby Brown.
yep.
And do you remember the awkward thing I told you?
Ooh, wait, maybe
Tenderoni.
no.
Oh no, Can You Stand the Rain? That was the song. I said, you might just have been made to this song or something funny like that. Like this
Yeah.
used to be our jam back in the day.
I see. I thought you were gonna, because I. Ooh, this is another great memory. I don't know if this is embarrassing, but so we saw Creed, right? And it was right after. All right, if we talk about the diagnosis and everything.
Hmm.
Okay. So it was right after you'd been diagnosed with cancer, and it was around like Thanksgiving time. It'd been like a lot. It just was a tough year. And then we went and saw Creed, the one with Michael B. Jordan, the Rocky movie, and we were just like, oh, we want to go see like a fun boxing movie, get our minds off things, like just have a nice night out. We love movies. That's like what we do. So we go and we see it, and then in the movie, Rocky gets cancer, and so then Michael B. Jordan has to go through his cancer recovery with him. So immediately we're both just sobbing, just like fucking movie.
This was supposed to be an escape,
Yeah,
not a
we're supposed to be
replication of
relaxing.
our life story.
Exactly, and it's like it was just like the perfectly just it just rhymed so perfectly with what we were going through. So we're both just and so we walk out of the movie, and we're doing that thing after you really cry really hard, where you're kind of just like we're just kind of quietly walking out, and we walk out of the movie theater, and you just wholeheartedly look at me, and you're just like, it's probably if it wasn't for Carl Weathers, you wouldn't exist.
I did have a little crush on Carl Weathers for a
Yeah,
long time.
and my dad does have a Carl Weathersy look, so I was like, all right, yeah,
There we go.
okay,
You're
I
welcome.
see it, I see it. So that's one of my favorite. I've told that story many a time. That's one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, he just passed away, Carl Weathers, and I
I
was so sad.
know.
He was a terrific actor and just seemed like a really nice man. So loved him.
It
All
was
right,
I. Oh yes, okay.
let's get. I was gonna say, are you ready for chaos theory?
Yes, I forgot we were just having a nice talk.
I know we got distracted by ourselves.
All right,
Okay.
well,
Oh well. Okay. Dang it. We accidentally already did one of mine. So should
shit.
I?
Which one?
Favorite mom memories for our Mother's Day episode. So we've
See,
kind of already done some of those.
we just naturally got into it.
But this was something that came up this week because, as I mentioned, I broke my foot and I went to the doctor and they made me fill out this emergency contact form. And I put you down. And then I started thinking, are you responsible enough to be my emergency contact?
Hurtful. Immediately hurtful. Okay.
Is it? Oh, that's hurtful.
I mean, I put you down for my emergency contact.
Well,
No,
you
put some.
should
You know what? Put
because I'm
somebody
the
else
mom.
down. Put somebody else down. I don't even care.
But But no, I was wondering, like, what happens if in the middle of the night you get a call, an emergency call? How are you going to handle that? I need to know that
Fair.
you're good enough to be my emergency contact.
Again, hurtful. Are you good enough? Thank you. Yeah, of course. My biggest issue with it is I don't answer phone calls from numbers I don't recognize. It's purely just like I feel like everybody does that. I think that's the one thing that I think is kind of a fair issue to have in that situation because
Now that they have the nice text, like so when someone leaves you a voicemail message and it texts the message, you can just quickly read it and be like, oh, this
yeah,
is something I'll call them right back.
as long if there's a voicemail and it's something like that, like I always will read through my voicemails or I listen to them the next chance I get. So that yes, I think I would be good in this current this past weekend situation. I just figured it was some like traveling emergency because you didn't text me immediately afterwards. Like usually you text me when you need like if it's an emergency or something. So I'm like, all right, it's like she never followed up, and then I saw you on Instagram like right afterwards. So I was like, she's fine.
She's alive.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, she's just it's probably some work thing, and then she got distracted, and you know,
Mm.
I honestly I was like, oh, it's probably something to do with flights somewhere, so we'll handle it later. But
Well,
yeah, but so I think as long as there's a voicemail left, we're good because I just don't because you get calls and there's sometimes you don't it doesn't have the scam thing, and then it's like I've had calls from like old people from life that are just like, hey, I just wanted to reach out. I saw your mom was on TV and I wanted to ask if she would mentor me, like random like that. So I've kind of
mm,
started to like filter through numbers I don't
screen
know.
people. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's an interesting concept because at one point I was like, well, I don't know if a child should have that responsibility for the parent,
I think
but
that ship
you're
has
old enough
sailed.
now that
Yeah, I think the amount of responsibilities that I have had in this
oh,
duo, I think that that ship is long.
that ship is sailed. One other really funny mom story that I think would be funny to share. And really, I'm not just trying to bash myself because I do think I've been a good mom to you.
You're a great
I
mom.
I was very good. I had a bad stretch when you were in junior high school, but I do think when you were a little kid, I was a great mom. I would sew your hand sewn Halloween costumes.
Answer
I remember
Hercules. I
one
have that
year
photo.
we did a Padawan, we did a Star Wars themed birthday party. I think you were maybe 8 or 9 years old. And I hand sewed 10 Padawan costumes for your friends. Like,
Yeah,
that's not normal mom stuff. That is over and above
and
the call
you
of
you
motherhood.
hired our downstairs neighbor to play
Darth
Darth
Vader.
Vader, and he showed up as Darth Vader. Andy, I remember that guy's name. Andy was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. I was a very creative, fun mom for most of your life. And then when you got to be about 13, I kind of hit the wall. Like,
I was a total just dick.
I didn't
It
want to
was
say it, but
there's a million things that happen. But
it was
I
a
you know
challenging time.
I do think
Teenagehood is challenging for kids. It is
yeah.
challenging.
I but in that same vein, I do think that we like everybody, but we have like a tendency to focus on the negatives because that was such a great birthday party, right? And it's like really amazing. But the main story I remember from that birthday party is we were after like we had like free play afterwards, and all the kids went out and played with their lightsabers.
Don't say names. I know what story you're going to tell, but don't say their
I'm
names.
not gonna say any names. Honestly, I
Okay.
don't remember. But I have the memory of a small cat that's been hit by a car, but it's still trucking. No, I'm kidding. But we were playing, and I wanted to be Anakin because the prequels had come out. The prequels are my Star Wars movies that I grew up with, including the originals. But I love the prequels movies, and I really wanted to be Anakin because I was like, he's awesome. I did not understand at the time that it was a tragedy and he would become the bad guy. I was that movie hadn't come out yet. Didn't matter.
You were 8. You loved Anakin. He was
I
hot.
liked
He was
Anakin.
great.
He was the cool guy. He got the girl. He was good looking. He had the cool lightsaber. Didn't like sand. I hate sand. I want to be that guy. And it was my birthday. And this kid literally came up to me. He's like, "You can. You can be Mace Windu." For the people that aren't in the know, Mace Windu is Samuel L. Jackson's character from the Star Wars movies. And he was like, "You can't be Anakin. You have to be Mace Windu." And I was like, "I don't want to be Mace Windu. I want to be Anakin. He's got like a robot hand. He's so cool." And he's like, you can't, you just can't. You're brown. You have to be the brown guy. Crazy, and then luckily I had an older kid that was there because I was just like, what? No, that's stupid. It's my birthday. And then the older kid backed me up. And so I got a little, you know, pep in my step. And I was like, you got to go home. Kicked him out of the birthday party. And then luckily the older kid was like, you seriously go home, kid. It was great. But I remember
I
that
do.
story.
Oh yeah.
It's
I do
so
remember
vivid.
having to have a hard talk with his mom about, he kind of said this awful thing to my kid at the party, and the mom being mortified because
Yeah.
I think at that age you don't really understand how children see race.
Hmm.
And I don't know if he even although 8, 9 years old, but
You start to get it. But
you
yeah.
should start to get it. And I think it's a responsibility of parents to um, expose you to that, because we lived in a community that was pretty white, didn't have a lot of diversity. But I would try to make sure that you were being around other cultures, and we had other friends that looked like you, and we had kids that looked like you. I tried to expose you to a lot of things so that you learn and you get to know people of other ethnicities. I think that's a parent's responsibility.
Yeah. But just because that's a big topic. We'll talk about that on a different episode because that's a tough one. But that it's just if it's so funny to me that it's easier to remember the bad stuff,
Because
like
it's a
that.
trauma, and it probably stores in it as a
It
traumatic part in a
stores.
different place in your literally in a different place in your brain than
Yeah.
the happy parts.
Whereas,
And the happy parts are just, like water going over a
yeah,
stone in
it's
the
just,
river.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's you're just kind of float. Like I don't like we went to Bora Bora with some friends, and it made me realize a rule about like traveling. Because like if you go on a trip, you need to have a bad, either like somebody you don't like or a bad thing, like a traveling struggle, to happen in the trip for it to become a great trip. Because if you don't have those, you lose a bunch of the information in the trip.
You need a
You need
grounding memory, but you're
you
saying that the only grounding memory can be a negative one. I think
you.
that can be positive. I think grounding
But
memories can be positive.
I think it because like for the Bora Bora trip, there's a couple, but one of my favorite ones is I'd never ridden a jet ski before, and we just lied and told them I had. And we went on this jet ski tour, and it was like rainy season, so the water was really choppy, and I almost lost everybody because I didn't know how you were supposed to ride the waves. So it was like a 20-minute period that was like really kind of scary because you're out in the ocean too, and I have a thing about sharks, and so like I like was like if I fall off this, it's rainy, I won't. Like I'll just be bobbing. They won't know I'm gone for a while. How do I get onto the jet ski? I'm gonna get eaten by a shark. And it was just like a little spark that now I remember that whole like it just
Fear.
it just makes it so that it kept that trip very alive in my mind.
Mm.
You know,
Hmm.
I think you gotta have for a really good trip, you gotta have one or two. It's either somebody that everybody doesn't like, or you have an experience that was a little scary, or it's hard to get there. You gotta have a little bit of juice, a little negative juice, just to like, a little
Make it
spice.
memorable. You have to overcome a little adversity.
Yeah, you gotta cut. You gotta beat something. Like we band together to be against this person because we didn't like them, so we had to figure out how to have fun. Great. Those bonds are tied. Or you almost fall off your jet ski. There's a little fear because you almost something happened and you figured out how to jet ski. You just need that little inkling.
Yeah, we did almost have a trip divorce because of Uno rules. Like, remember the Uno games got so serious. Don't say names. Don't say names. But
Uno is a
Uno
dumb
can break
game.
up families.
I don't
Uno,
think I'm anti. I don't like to play Uno with people.
because everybody has different rules, and no one will agree what the rules are.
Yeah.
And so it gets really competitive. But
And I feel like I have to bite my tongue so hard just to play, and I'm like, I'm not having fun anymore because I'm just, oh, it's a podcast. I shouldn't do faces, but like, I'm just like, like just tense, and it just makes it not fun because I'm just like, that's not how I play it.
yeah. Okay, any other good advice for people about Mother's Day? Like, do children feel pressure to get Mother's Day right? What
See,
would be your
okay,
advice for people to have good Mother's Days and honor their mothers?
I'll do this, and then I also have that I pulled out of a hat.
Okay.
Okay. Advice for first things first for the kids out there. You're never gonna get something that she loves. You just have to get something to show that you care.
Wonderful advice.
Because I think I've made the mistake for a lot. It was a lot of Christmas. Christmas is where I've made this mistake the most. Is I would just kind of get something, and it wouldn't. I'd be like, oh, whatever, and whatever, and it would just kind of it just I could tell you didn't like it, whatever. And one thing I realized is like the more thought that was put into the gift. So last week you were giving me a big yada yada about you always got me a planner for my birthday. I would like to say I also would get you a planner. For most years, I didn't do it this past year for a different reason. I would get you either like a planner or a notebook, and I would because I know I was a personal trainer. I know a lot of personal trainers, and I would get you a notebook with a loving note, and then a bunch of information about like fitness and stuff because I know you have like injuries and you've gone through surgeries and the skiing accident, and so I would try to like make up stuff to like help with that and like travel exercise tips and stuff like that. Like this past year, I told my friend Fran to make you a program. Fran Kalinsky, shout out, he's the man. I had him write you a whole program for Christmas.
That I can do in my hotel room, which
That
is
you
super
can,
helpful.
and we went through all your so like I think let me know if I'm wrong, but I think those gifts meant a lot more than like I got you like a book or I got you a coffee mug, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that I can't speak for every mother, but for myself, the more thoughtful the gift, the more impactful. Like it never matters if it's expensive. It never matters if you spend a lot of money on it. It matters that you really put some time and thought into what would be good for me. Like that's what I care about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And honestly, time too. Like some years I've just been like, you don't need to get me anything. I just want to spend time with you,
Yeah. I think
But I
that's
do
that's
like it
that's been
when
a
you
big
get a
thing.
little something or a card or
Yeah. But I
notes
think
that
that's been our usual thing for Mother's Day has been like we do something or we try to because softball is always kind of tough.
Mhm.
But yeah, for like Christmas, I remember it's always been like let's spend the whole like we watch all the Christmas movies. I can't wait for our Christmas episode so we can just unload on all of our Christmas movies.
Christmas traditions and movies and
Uh,
everything. One fun day we had, this was a good Mother's Day, was we I was in New York, and we've done this on several occasions, but we have this thing that we've done that's I think hilarious. Other people might think we're crazy, but we like to buy matching outfits a lot.
yes,
And so
that's
this
my
was a Mother's Day that we were together in New York, and we went and got matching sweatsuits at Nike. And we went around town in these matching sweatsuits, and they were very dramatic, kind of, peach colored, dramatic, funny looking sweatsuits.
we'll have to
And we
we'll
wore them
post that on
we
the
went to very nice places in New York. We went to the Carlisle
yeah.
Hotel and the Carlisle bar in our matching sweatsuits. So I do think we've had some funny, I think we say this all the time, would rather be funny than anything. But I do love our funny sense of humor on
And it's
matching
adorable.
outfits. It's
Well,
adorable.
but okay, so that's funny though. One of the things that popped up on my chaos theory was fitness,
Ugh.
but we kind of already talked about that because I wanted to bring up what I did for my. So instead, we're gonna do just a quick one. Have you been keeping up with the Drake and wait, can you even see what that says?
Oh my gosh. I have spent more time researching the Drake Kendrick Lamar situation than I have been doing my work. I
I
know
love
more
this.
about Drake and Kendrick Lamar than I do about Auburn softball that I'm researching right now. No,
Oh my
this is
God.
funny. We were doing the Bedlam softball series, and I told Beth Mowens, if you will come on the air and say, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma softball, it's Bedlam. There hasn't been a rivalry this fierce since Kendrick Lamar and Drake. I will buy you a whiskey. Like I tried to get Beth to say that on ESPN
Tough.
for the rivalry, which I thought would have been hysterical.
That would have been great.
She didn't say it.
Of course,
I'm a little
she's a
salty about
professional
that.
though.
She's a
She's a
professional, but
professional.
that would have been really funny. Of like, So I have gone deep dive. I've gone to billboard.com. I have read all of this history going back to like 2012, 2013, all the different tracks, all the different diss tracks. And right before we jumped on to do this podcast, I don't know if this is related in any way, but the police in Toronto are currently investigating a shooting on the street where Drake lives, and a police helicopter, according to this woman I just saw on social media, there's crime scene tape around the courtyard of his house. So I don't know what's happening, but I hope that this diss track stuff going back and forth hasn't devolved into something more serious.
Yeah, let's hope not. We want to keep it fun. But
by the way, do you think it's all a scam? Here's my question for you.
Ooh, okay.
Do you think it's all a scam? Because they used to be boys, like they used to be on each other's
Were they?
tracks. Yeah, like they were making music together. Yes, according to this Billboard.com article that I read.
I think they made one song together though.
But they would do stuff. They would collaborate back in the day, and they appeared to be boys. And Drake buddies. Kind of brought up some of the guys. From what I read, it seemed like Drake was a good mentor and brought up some guys in the rap game of that era.
Well, I think that's one
until
thing
it
that
turned
everybody's
nasty.
Yeah. Well, everybody's saying that Drake always would bring people up, but then he would just use them for something, and then you would never, you never, like, he never got somebody to his level. You know what I mean? He Thanos'd it, where he would just take little bits and pieces. I sound like such a nerd on today's track. Like, oh my God. But he would take bits and pieces that he liked from people and use like and like get a hit with them or something, and then kind of just like, all right,
maybe use them artistically. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I've heard. I don't know. This is all conjecture, and nothing we say is news.
Right. I don't know the reality of that, but based on what I've read, I think there's probably a little bit of truth in the anger Kendrick Lamar has towards Drake. There's some reasons for it. Yeah. I wouldn't take a side in this because I don't know enough to pick a side in this.
You're not going to take a side? I was so excited. Like when you said you knew so much about it, I was like, oh, she's going to pick a side.
I don't feel like I understand it enough to pick a side. I would say I probably like Drake's music more than I like Kendrick Lamar's music. I think you know me well enough. I'm more of a J. Cole person than either of them. So if I'm really picking a side, it's J. Cole's, and J. Cole has gotten in this on accident because he made a track about the three of them, and now Kendrick Lamar's come after J. Cole about it. Yeah. So what I really can't tell is it real, or is it just a way to sell albums and promote themselves? And is this all a marketing scam that we're all falling for? That's really my question.
At the end of the day, it is all a product that these guys are making. So it is it's definitely that. Like I think all four of Kendrick Lamar's tracks are in the Billboard Top 100, which is just something crazy.
It's driving consumerism, right? So it's pretty smart. I don't think you should ever do that at someone else's expense. So if it is real, it seems pretty negative and ugly, and I don't like that. But if it's just marketing, it's pretty brilliant.
So you're telling me we shouldn't start a beef with some other podcast?
Wow, what podcast could we start a beef with? We love Smartless. We love the Smartless guys.
Smartless. We could come after the Smartless guys.
Jason Bateman and Will Arnett, Sean Hayes. But they're so lovely. How would we even have a beef with them? Like just a made up diss track?
Hey, Drake seemed pretty cool. We gotta think of it. We're gonna have a diss episode on the Smartless guys.
Those bangs. Jason Bateman's bangs are just terrible.
We'll work on it. We're gonna maybe we'll go for some smaller fish, and then we'll work our way out. I think those guys are like the biggest podcast of all time. Maybe, yeah.
They're so adorable, and we have a tradition that anytime we're on the road together and we're in the car together, we listen to Smartless together. So,
what has somebody been cheating?
No. I did listen to one episode without you, the Amy Schumer episode. I did listen to that without you. It was so phenomenal. And then you said, wait a minute, are you cheating on me? I thought we only did those together. So I've stopped. I've not listened to a single episode since then.
That's okay.
I promise.
Okay. It's surprising. It wasn't the right time to do it, but we have squashed our beef because the last episode was you embarrassing me. And then this episode, I've gotten to embarrass you a little bit. They're not that embarrassing.
Yeah, what better way to celebrate Mother's Day than to embarrass your mother?
I think it's a team up. I think it's a team up. I think we came together. You know.
I want to tell one more funny story, just to take us out because it's softball season and I'm
Yes.
just getting ready for the SEC softball tournament. And so much of our life revolves around softball. This will be my 20th Women's College World Series. So obviously, you have lived the College World Series with me for a long time, gone there with me a lot.
Yep.
So when you were young, you were 11 years old. And again, this is kind of before ESPN had all these rules and HR. ESPN used to be this kind of free flowing place. And then we merged with Disney, and then we got like HR departments, and there's all these workplace rules, which is fine. It's just different. So I was bringing you to the World Series, which is an 8-day event in Oklahoma City, because there's all these kids at the ballpark, and I was going to let you run around the ballpark and have fun. I brought a mitt for you so you could go out in the outfield and catch balls, and like you're just going to be at the ballpark while I'm working. No big deal. So the first day I get there, the ESPN safety guy, I still remember him to this day. I'm very angry at him still to this day. I try to be nice to him, but I'm still angry. He said, "Your son can't be here. It's a liability issue." And I'm like, "There's thousands of kids here. Like all these kids are here. Why can't my kid be here?" And he's like, "Because if anything happens, it's a liability issue for Disney and ESPN, and you'll sue us or something, or we could get sued or whatever." And I was like, "Well, I'm not going to sue you." They said he can't be here. So instead of you being at the ballpark with me every day, you had to stay in a hotel room by yourself. And what happened? You were 11 years old. And so this is terrible mothering, by the way. I left you in a hotel room by yourself for 7 days.
Yeah. So for 7 days, I mean, I wasn't there by myself the whole time, but I don't think I.
No, you had like people helped. You weren't there the whole time, but still.
Well, yeah, every now and again you came home, but I proceeded to. I didn't trash the room, but the room was pretty dirty, and then I ordered for every single meal. I ordered room service, including I'd get like a cheeseburger for breakfast and like a full ribeye steak for dinner. And then I was not quite grasping what was going on with the movies on the TV, so I ordered pay-per-view for like every single movie I wanted to watch. I watched all of them.
So I have a vivid memory of going down to the hotel lobby to check out. And I said, "Hey, I'm just checking out." And he said, "Okay, yeah, your bill is $792." And I said, "Oh, no, 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 no. ESPN's paying for my room. I am only paying for my incidentals." And he said, "Ma'am, those are your incidentals." And yeah, you had ordered filet mignon, and we had to have a really hard conversation about you can't pay $20 for a cheeseburger. Now this was 20 years, almost 20 years ago. So
No,
now you
that's
do pay
normal.
$20 for a cheeseburger. But I remember having these price conversations with you, like we can't spend $60 for a steak and $25 for a hamburger.
Yeah, yeah,
But I also remember because it was right before your birthday, your 12th birthday. And I remember saying, "Well, happy birthday." That
yeah.
was your birthday.
That is fair. That is a fair. That's a birthday present. I don't know if I just didn't. I was like, it's getting paid for. Like it's getting like Disney will pay for it. I was very wrong, and we were not a wealthy family then, so it was pretty
Mom was
rough.
poor. No, I was scraping to make a living, and $792, that hit hard.
Yeah, yeah. I was trying to get after the mortgage with my hotel stay.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
We made it. We made it.
We made it. We've survived. Happy Mother's Day, darling.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom.
All right. Talk to you next week.
I
Love
love you.
you.
I'll see you next week.